You have some juice?
Juice!
If you drink it, you'll drink juice. Good job. Can you eat it?
Easy.
Put strawberry in there.
Good morning, everybody. We are in Dallas this morning. We stayed in Dallas last night for an IVF appointment today. So if you're new, yeah, 4. If you're new, we are in a transfer cycle right now. So we're transferring January 26th. If all goes well, it's looking like it's probably definitely going to be the transfer day. I don't think that would get delayed at all, and I'll explain why in a second. But yeah, we're transferring January 26th. We are very excited about it. This is our final embryo from our cycle that we did in 2020. So obviously transfer time is stressful and you know, also exciting. It's a really strange balance of so excited but also nervous, and you want everything to be perfect, you know, so every appointment you're like analyzing everything. You kind of become, I always say during IVF vlogs and stuff, during these appointments, you kind of become like a scientist and a doctor, even though you're not actually, but you kind of have to know, you know, a lot of things about it kind of on your own, because of course you can ask your doctors things, but honestly I feel like if you don't research on your own, you won't even know what to ask. There's a lot of things that you won't even know what is happening. Okay, I'll help you with it. Oh, he's texting somebody. But anyway, so yeah, we had an appointment today. Here you go, buddy. We had an appointment today, and this is just a lining check and a blood work. They just check your like estrogen levels and stuff in your blood work. But anyway, for my transfer last time with Zion, it was 8 point something. I think it was like 8.8, 8.9, something like that. Like in the high 8s, shortly before transfer. Now, I've always heard, and I've read online, and my doctor has not told me this, but I've read online that like between 8 to 10 is really what they want and what's considered like a really good lining. Well, anyway, today I go in for my ultrasound. They're transvaginal ultrasounds. You go in, you get these done, not as often during transfer cycles. Egg retrievals, they do them a ton, but you do them a few times during your transfer cycle, more than most people have in like several years probably. But anyway, so we go in for our transfer cycle, or my ultrasound this morning, and she's like, okay, anything above 8 is what we want, but it might not be 8 today. Like, that's fine if it's not, you know, we have time, but it also might be. It's very possibly already at 8 or more. She's like, we'll just have to see. So she goes ahead, does the ultrasound, and she doesn't tell me, which the ultrasound tech I have with Zion, was a different guy. He told me everything, but I have a feeling he might have been licensed differently or something was different about him, because this girl kind of acts like she can't tell me things unless she just doesn't want to and isn't a big talker. But she kind of acts like she's not supposed to, because she like intentionally doesn't tell me. Like, it's just like, okay, thanks, and then she's like leaves, and there's no information. So anyway, I met with my nurse afterwards, and I asked her, because I saw on the screen while she was doing it, because like I said, I've become a doctor throughout all of this. I saw on the screen that it said 10 point something. I was like, no, my lining's not 10. I mean, it was like 8 last time, and further along in the cycle. And so I asked my nurse, just because I was genuinely curious, what is my lining right now? She said, yeah, it's 10.8. And she's like, it looks really good. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So then I start researching it, and Manny was researching it, because I know I've heard people say before on YouTube, my doctor again has never told me this, and I know every clinic has different beliefs because there's just different studies out there. Yeah. But anyway, I've seen people have their cycles canceled for having their lining be too thick or too thin. It can go either way. So anyway, I looked it up, and it does say like between 8 and 10, but I don't know all the facts, so I'm not going to start saying facts on here, because again, if you're in a cycle, I don't have information on this. I need to do more studying, and if I can't figure it out, I'm going to ask at my next appointment. But I think that it kind of must either taper off, or like it's not just going to keep growing at this rate. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go back next week and it's 20. Like, I don't think that's how it works. And at first I was like, what if it just keeps going? I don't think that's how it works. So I think we're good on that. I think 10.8 would be okay. But you know what? At the end of the day, like I do this every cycle. Last cycle I did this. When we did our egg retrieval, I did this. I read every forum. I read every person's experience, and I did exactly what people tell you not to do. Yeah. Which I don't regret doing that. Sorry guys. I don't regret doing that because I learned a lot. But also, honestly, when you're the one in the middle of the cycle, it can be really stressful to read like, yeah, mine was 10.8 and it failed 9 times, you know, like when it's always like those kinds of things. But then there's also people that are like, you know, hey, mine was this and I've had success so many times. There's really no for sure in fertility treatment. It's like sometimes this stuff fails and sometimes it works. And sometimes we can nail it down to maybe the lining was too thick, but maybe that wasn't the reason. You know, we don't ever really know. And that's kind of what it all comes down to, is like sometimes they just don't really even know, and they're just going off of educated guesses and things like that. Transfers fail all the time. It's the same thing as like how miscarriages happen, you know, often. It's like you don't always know a reason for that, right? Like they can't say, oh, it was definitely because of this, you know? So there's just kind of like all a guessing game. And I know there are very educated people who know what they're talking about for sure, but just take everything you read online with a grain of salt, because it's not all, sometimes it's just about experience, you know? Like I can tell you my levels were this way and I had a perfect transfer, and it was amazing. I had no problems. I had a perfect pregnancy, but yours could be the exact same and yours could fail. Mine could have been the same as somebody else's and mine could fail. It's not an exact thing, you know? There's no way if they could do that, everybody could get pregnant through this, right? It's just hope. And so, you know, I'm reminded today again, like my dependence on God. Like God does not create life, which he's already created the life. The embryo already exists, the baby already exists. But if he does not allow this life to implant into my womb, if he does not cause that to happen, then it won't. Like it's all about God. And I don't think that God's trying to take anything from me. I don't think that I think he wants this to work. I believe that wholeheartedly. And I believe that that's his will and that's his heart. But, you know, he has to say it. And if he didn't say it, then it doesn't matter what my lining is. It doesn't matter what medication I'm on. It doesn't matter what doctor I go to. So I'm just trying to have hope in the fact that, you know what, if this is the time, if this is supposed to be what happens, nothing can stop the will of God. Nothing. Not a single thing was going to stop that. So I am a little bit nervous. I'm nervous that my lining will keep growing and it's going to be too thick. And, you know, I have all those thoughts in my mind. But I'm trusting God. It worked before. This embryo is graded the same way. We didn't test our embryos. I get asked that a lot if we know the gender, because I think people hear that through IVF. We didn't know the gender for Zion either until a normal time. We were 16 weeks. We found out with him, just because we didn't do genetic testing. So our embryos are not tested. Zion wasn't either. He has nothing wrong with him. He's a perfectly healthy baby, but neither of them are tested. So, but as far as the way they look without testing, they both looked amazing. They're both perfect quality embryos, which like is actually pretty rare. They're both AA embryos, which is a top quality. There is no higher quality. That is the top quality that you could have for an embryo. Now, an AA embryo can have something wrong with it. There can be genetic abnormalities still. But from what I was reading, it is less likely with an AA embryo. So I'm just believing for the best. I know God has a plan, and I know this is our baby. I know that this baby is going to come home with us. I'm believing that. Okay, so I was just doing some studying, my IVF studies, and yay! So like I said, there's a million studies. I told Manny, you can find just about anything you want to find, to be honest. I think that's just how science works, you know? There's always people arguing things. That's like, I mean, you can find studies to support both, you know, ideas, but I was looking up without looking up, like, is this good? Is this bad? You know, because you can make it say it's good or bad if you want to. I was just looking up. I looked up FET, which is frozen embryo transfer, lining 10.8, you know, that kind of thing. And they said there are studies that were done, recent studies from what I was reading in 2018. There was a study about how around 10 millimeters for a lining is like perfect, that you want it to be above 8 or 8, like 8 at the least. You don't want it below 8. I know a lot of clinics won't even transfer below 8 because there have been some legit studies done about the thinness of linings, And if it's below, like, for sure if it's below 5, I think they said there hadn't even been any pregnancies reported from those. So probably most clinics don't do that at this point, I would say. But anyway, they wanted 8 or above, which is what the woman said to me today. And it does say most studies seem to be on the same track, that if it's above 12, that's when it becomes not good. I did see a girl on YouTube that hers got to above 12 and they canceled her transfer. And I remember it being 12. The reason for that is because that will then start to restrict blood flow to the uterus, and that obviously an embryo needs blood flow. Embryos, babies, that creation is so smart that I remember when we went to our first ultrasound with Zion at the fertility clinic, the ultrasound tech told me that he was implanted at the top of the uterus in the exact spot that more blood flow gets to. That's like the highest blood flow right there where he implanted, and that's why, because they go toward that, they gravitate toward that, they know that, you know. And so it's really actually pretty cool, because if there's not enough blood flow, they know, and they don't implant because they know that that's not a healthy environment. I think that's like really incredible. So anyway, I think we're good. I think we're gonna be okay. I don't think it's gonna grow that much like me and Manny were talking about. I remember the other times going and like the next week it would be like pretty much the same, you know, and I would always be like, that's weird, why hasn't it grown, you know. But I think that's just normal. It kind of gets to this point, and then I think it does kind of start to just stay in that same general area. I do have another appointment next week, and that will be our last appointment before transfer. You need something? You playing a game?
In 1 mile, take a slight right turn onto West San.
So yeah, that's a little update. I think we're good. I did my studies, and it actually looks like we're not only good, it looks like it's really good. It looks like actually maybe even better than last time, because according to some studies, this is exactly where they want it to be. So again, you can find something to support just about anything you want to. I could probably find a study that said above 12 was wonderful, you know. It doesn't mean that it is. People can write whatever they want to write, but so anyway, just giving you guys an update. All right, y'all. It's been a few days, couple days, I think, and we've been struck. It's been about 3 days. We've been struck with sickness in the Ubuku home. Yeah, not been a vibe over here, let me tell you that much. Zion was first, which he's essentially never been sick. He's 18 months, and I mean, literally, like, he's had a stuffy nose a couple of times, but he never had run a fever. I mean, he's never really had a sickness. He had COVID with me. That's like the only time he's ever been sick, but it was just extremely mild. This was actually worse than COVID for him, assuming it's not COVID. We don't know exactly what it is, but I think it's the flu. We have just been, I mean, I was next, and then my throat started hurting so bad I thought I had strep throat. I was like, this is not a good sign. Like, my throat is on fire. I was literally Googling strep throat. I've had it before, but it's been years. The sore throat went away, and now it's just full-blown, like, flu symptoms. I am starting to feel a little bit better today, but I mean, it's not a whole lot, to be honest. I'm just really trying, I think. You know, like when you get that mindset, like, I'm not gonna be sick. I'm kind of there. I still feel pretty rough. I even went to Walmart, you guys, and got cold and flu medication. And if you know me, unless it's IVF meds, your girl ain't taking no medicine. I just have never liked that, but I had to have something. I mean, when you're a toddler mom, and a toddler's also not feeling good, you're gonna have to take some medicine, in my opinion. At least if you're feeling like I was, or like I still am. But the medication does, like, ease some of it. It's still there, like the achiness and stuff the medication helps with. And Zion's much better. He was sick for like 1 day, thankfully. Thankfully it's not more than that. But he still has a runny nose, but he is just out playing. He wants to go outside. He wants to go down the slide. Kids are just resilient. I'm very thankful for that. I'm glad it was not bad. Trust me, like, I'm so grateful for that. I know it's not the case for everybody. Like, I'm so glad he's such a healthy kid. But then me and Manny got it. And Manny never gets sick. Manny's not feeling too good today. He's not been sick literally since before we got married. He had COVID. He had a positive COVID test, I think, but it was like barely any. I mean, he just hasn't really had anything. He just has a really great immune system, but this one has kind of taken us all down. So we're just praying today that we're going to start feeling better. I'm like out of breath. I'm on the struggle bus, you guys. But I want to show you guys before I wrap up this vlog, since it's really an IVF vlog, but I just had to give you that update because I know you're probably going to listen to me and think, what's wrong with her? I'm definitely not feeling well. But I got my PIO stuff in the mail too, so I want to show that before I wrap this up. So PIO is progesterone in oil. They are shots that you take in your like hip area, the upper right quadrant, or upper quadrant. I guess it's not just the right one. You do them on each side. You like rotate each side every day. So you do these shots. I'm going to start the shots on the 20th. I'll do a whole vlog of it. I'll do TikTok, all the things. But they are the ones that people usually dread more than anything else. The needle is very big. But you know what? You can get through it. You can do anything. I've learned that with IVF. You can do hard things. You can do anything. You can handle it. But anyway, these are my progesterone. Inject 1.5 milliliters intramuscularly every day. So if you can see, it's an oil. Kind of see it shaking around in there. So it's thicker than a lot of meds because it's oil. Another thing that some people say, it makes it a little bit more uncomfortable. I didn't have a terrible experience with PIO last time. You get sore muscles. I mean, it's not like it's a good old time. You know, you get knots. You got to make sure you massage them real good. Massages help a ton. But you can do it. I'm not going to hype myself up over it because you absolutely can do it. So they give you 2 different needles. This is important to know. Some people do this wrong, and it will hurt a lot more if you do it wrong. I haven't done it wrong, but I've heard horror stories. They give you a needle to draw the medicine up with and a needle to inject the medicine with. So here's the different needles. There's an 18 gauge and a 22 gauge. So the lower the number, the bigger the needle. So you draw up with the 18 gauge. See if I can focus this real quick for you guys. Let me actually open this. It's kind of casting a weird shadow. Let's see. There we go. So, I mean, it's, you know, she's thick. She's a little thick, but you don't inject with that one. You just draw up with that one. So make sure if you're doing this, you don't inject with the wrong needle. And it won't kill you or anything, but it's not going to feel good. And then these are the ones that you inject with. Y'all, you put the whole needle in. When I first showed to my mom, she's like, I bet you don't have to put the whole needle in. Last time around, I'm like, no, you got to put the whole thing in. It goes into the muscle, so obviously it has to be kind of long to like reach the muscle. Let me see. There we go. I'm just going to show it right here. And there she is. They are big needles, that's for sure. But you know what? You can do it. There's nothing you can't do. It's not too hard for you. You can do hard things. You can, I mean, I tell myself this every day. You're going to be fine. You did it last time around. Needles don't bother me. I mean, obviously you guys know I have like a half sleeve and all the things. And that doesn't bother me. But, I mean, putting a needle in your muscle on your own at home, Manny does them for me, but at home, it's intimidating, especially the first time around. To be honest, I was like really scared the first time. You can go back and watch that vlog just because, you know, you hear all the things. You can paralyze yourself and you can, you know, all the things because it's obviously in a muscle. It obviously goes pretty deep, but you can do it. You're going to be fine if you're doing this. So got a bunch of those. Got 4 bottles of those, which that doesn't really last that long. This was $400 and something. We'll have to buy more of it. You know, you take them. This is assuming the transfer is successful. I'm believing and speaking that it is. You take them for I took them for the first 10 weeks of pregnancy. Some people do the whole first trimester. It just kind of depends on your levels. But usually at about 10 weeks, the placenta starts producing progesterone, so you don't have to take it anymore. And they just check your levels every week and just kind of see how you're doing with your levels. And once it starts to look like your placenta is producing that, they go ahead and wean you off of it. So for me, that was about 10 weeks. And the longer I'm going to be honest, the longer you do them, I hear a lot of people the first time they take one, like, oh, that was easy. And that's what I said too. Like, oh, it was a breeze. That was so easy. And it is at the beginning, but I will be very transparent. The longer you do progesterone and oil, it does start to hurt more. I'm not going to lie to people about that. It does start to get more uncomfortable. By the end, by the 10 weeks, you are ready to be done with it because there's knots. It's hard to find. You don't want to really inject into a knot for obvious reasons. So you want to kind of find a good spot, and you start to run out of good spots. Although I will say, I didn't have a whole lot of knots last time. I think because Manny really massaged hard afterwards. We also used a massage gun. And I would always do squats afterwards. I just felt like that helped it to kind of disperse. And also help my muscle to, you know, not be as sore. Just to kind of work that muscle afterwards, I feel like helps instead of just laying there. So I would always get up, even though we do them at nighttime, I would always get up, do my squats, walk around the house, kind of just get that moving, and it really did help. So I didn't have a terrible experience by any means, but the longer you do it, of course, you want to be done with it. But I will say, I also do the progesterone suppositories after positive pregnancy test, the vaginal suppositories. I'd rather do the shots, literally. I literally would rather do the intramuscular shots. Those suppositories, I won't get into detail, but they are not the vibe. Let me just tell you that. They are not fun. They're worth it, okay? It's all worth it. It's all good things, but yeah, not fun. Just a big mess. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this vlog. Thank you guys for supporting. So many of you have supported our IVF journey last time around and this time as well. And it's just truly a privilege to be able to do another embryo transfer. I just say that every day. Like, thank you, God, that I had this opportunity, that I had this chance. So many people don't even have the opportunity to transfer one embryo, much less have their second time and have their first time be successful. I know it's an honor and a privilege, and it's not something that I take lightly. Manny and I both talk about that all the time. Wow, this actually worked for us. And so we appreciate the prayers. It's obviously anxiety inducing. It's obviously a hard journey. I'm going to be honest. It's obviously a lot mentally and emotionally, but we're thankful, and we're just going into it with gratitude, knowing that God is good and he's just as faithful today as he was in 2020 when we transferred Zion. You know, he's not stopped. He's not done. And so no matter what the outcome, we know God is good. We know God is faithful. I have no doubt in who he is. And I've come to know him so much deeper over these past few years, you know, just knowing him as father, knowing him as provider more than ever before. And so I trust him. I know he's good. And so anyway, I'm gonna wrap up the vlog. Thank you for watching. Also, I wanted to say real quick, I ended up researching my uterine lining, and it looks like it's actually good. It looks like it's all good things. When you start taking your progesterone, it says it kind of shrinks it a little bit, so it's not really a bad thing that it's thickened. Just in case you were in that situation, I don't want you to freak out from the vlog. Zion's crying, probably for me. Manny's with him though, so I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, you are incredible. Jesus loves you. See you later.